One of their reasons, it's like the dog ate my homework.
Article 4's halted. The Secretary of State for Housing has stopped Article 4's on Use Class E building conversions. Welcome, Linda Wright. Now, Linda, tell us more. No more Article 4's on this Use Class E conversion. What great news.
It's not quite as simple as that. And there's been a few headlines here and there and things on social media saying Article 4 directions in the London Boroughs has been blocked by the Minister, Secretary of State and Minister for Housing. They've not quite been blocked. All that happened was the new, very, very new Stuart Andrew, basically this letter was sent out on the 28th of April. He was only in office a couple of weeks beforehand. So we're not going to start having a go at Mr. Andrew. That's not going to happen.
He must have watched our videos, Linda, up here on the Use Class E. And as a result of that, he picked up all the knowledge very quickly.
Absolutely, yes. I suspect basically a piece of paper was shoved in front of him and he signed it. Anyhow, so there's a letter has gone out to a number of London boroughs. They had applied for Article 4 directions. Now, as you and I know, and in case anyone out there doesn't, there are immediate Article 4 directions. They're quite rare. And then there are non-immediate Article 4 directions. An Article 4 direction in planning removes permitted development rights that are centrally, nationally handed down. So an Article 4 direction has to be applied for by each council, each local planning authority, and that application has to be made to the Secretary of State. It takes 12 months. So has to be published, has to go through the whole process for before the Secretary of State either accepts or rejects or asks for an Article 4 direction area or the terms of it to be altered, amended, or he or she has the power to completely reject and also completely accept as submitted. Now, this has happened with the City of London Corporation. They submitted an Article 4 direction and it's been accepted. It's not been amended, not been changed. The letter that the minister sent out was to each of these councils that had submitted applications for Article 4 directions, and they have been asked to review their, now, by that means amend and possibly make smaller, because a few of these councils, and I've not gone through each one line by line, but a few of these I do know have submitted blanket Article 4 directions. And to be perfectly honest, quite rightly, the Secretary of State has said, no, that's not under the terms of what you're supposed to be doing with an Article 4 direction. So that's what's happening. The Article 4 directions have not been blocked. They've just been asked to review. And there's also at the bottom of the letter, it says, if you'd like to discuss any of these things, please come in and have meetings. It isn't a block. That was the 28th of February, the letter was sent out. We're now sort of 4 or 5 weeks down the line. So I suspect discussions will be ongoing, and possibly we will need to do another update video to this one to work out what's going on. And of course, each local planning authority circumstances will be different. They're just being asked to review what they've submitted.
I was actually going to say, Linda, we did a video last year when we looked at the new permitted development rights, Class MA, and what we said, an Article 4 could be introduced, but it has to be to the smallest possible area. Now, the letter from Stuart Andrew to the councils, to quote, he's not persuaded that a case was made for blanket coverage. He goes on to suggest the councils should consider either individual streets or smaller areas, which is what we said. It's almost indicating councils have got to ring fence specific buildings or at most a street.
And the reason for this was because last year, what happened was councils realised that in bringing this Class E to residential, the new Class MA, but the use Class E, which is broader than the old Class O, which was just offices, this now encompasses business, commercial, service. So it's a much broader reach. And central government realised that what was going to happen was councils were going to go, oh no, we're issuing Article 4 directions. And so what they did, and because there was a concern about a vacuum, a policy vacuum, the existing Class O to residential conversions were extended, the Article 4 directions were extended until they expire on the 31st of July 2022, so this year. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of time, because it takes a long time these days to get planning. It's even longer at the moment. So because they realised that councils were possibly going to either want to reinstate or replicate what they'd had, because of this class, and there were going to be new councils because of the broadening of this class, they were going to want to bring in new Article 4 directions. So they recognised that. So what happened in July last year, 2021, a new paragraph, paragraph 53 of the National Planning Policy Framework was amended and changed, and that strengthened the terms under which local planning authorities can issue Article 4 directions. And as you say, they have to be wholly reasonable and necessary. They have to be the smallest geographical area possible, and other issues such as protect the local amenities. So protect a shopping street or something like that. So the terms under which you can bring an Article 4 direction into force was strengthened, probably because they knew that there was going to be this coming up. So what's happening is, with this letter from Stuart Andrew, he is, or Whitehall, referring back to that change to paragraph 53 of the National Planning Policy Framework. So that's what's happening with this. They're saying, hang on a minute. And in fairness to central government, they gave fair warning. They said, look, these are the terms under which you're going to have to comply. Your Article 4 directions are going to have to comply. And if they're not doing that, then they've not read the new paragraph of the NPPF. So maybe they just think, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll just put it in there and see what happens. Maybe they're just trying it on. But Kensington and Chelsea have come back. I thought one of their reasons were, it's like the dog ate my homework reason. Kensington and Chelsea have come back and said, no, we need a blanket Article 4 direction because we're one of the smallest London boroughs. What? What part of paragraph 53 did you not read? Anyhow.
Well, I thought it was really interesting, talking Royal Borough of Kensington here, and to name a quote from Councillor Elizabeth Campbell. She said that it's very disappointing because this risks a widespread loss of vital community space, and more so the creation of substandard housing, which doesn't meet our community's needs. Now, I know it's the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea, so, what does their borough's needs appertain to? Is it slightly different to the rest of the UK? Because, Linda, we've done videos on space standards, on noise, the criterion that needs to be met for Class Gs, Class MAs, and all the other permitted development rights.
I think possibly there is an argument that it may be slightly out of date, although I don't know, because she may be able to come up with evidence of substandard accommodation. But a few years ago now, at least pre-pandemic, the RICS brought out a report about these office to residential conversions. And let's be honest, some of these office buildings were on their last legs. They were slightly daggy old buildings and they really ought not to have been converted. And now that we've got the prior approval to demolish and rebuild, that probably will improve matters, because these buildings that are on their last legs, then they can be dropped and rebuilt. So there was an RICS report that said these conversions, office conversions in particular, were creating substandard accommodation. So it may be that she's got something from that. Now that in and of itself is now out of date, because the changes to the prior approval procedure have changed radically, so that you cannot really provide substandard accommodation, because you've got, first of all, you've got the space standards that came in April last year. So a minimum space standards, which was not in place when most of these office to residential conversions took place. You've got adequate levels of natural light, which some of these properties didn't have. You've also got, noise issues have to be addressed. So it's, if you add all of those things up, providing substandard accommodation is really, it will be very, very difficult to achieve under the new prior approval procedure, which makes you jump through hoops and hoops and hoops, all sorts of things. So from that point of view, that might be a slightly outdated comment, unless the lady has evidence that there is substandard accommodation in Kensington and Chelsea.
In summary, what we're saying is Article 4s are not dead. It might take 12 months for the councils to insert a new Article 4, which actually gives a window of opportunity, therefore.
Oh, yes.
Is this right?
Exactly. The impact of the Secretary of State putting the brakes on and just saying, whoa, hang on a minute, we want you to review this. Let me just tell you who the councils are, so that our lovely viewers, if they're working in any of these areas, they might want to have a look at these. So Kensington and Chelsea, Camden, Lambeth, Southwark, Tower Hamlets, Wandsworth and Westminster. And then the City of London Corporation, their Article 4 direction has been accepted. So those are the councils that you just need to be aware of. Now, so the impact of the Secretary of State's office asking for a review of these things, if they are changed, if they are amended, then the argument will be that they have to be republished and they have to be reconsulted on. Now, will the Secretary of State's office say, well, no, we'll just do that really quickly and we'll make sure you have all of these things in place before the 31st of July? I'm not sure that legislatively that can be done. So if these things have to be republished and consultation done and the whole 12 months gone through again, there is going to be a policy vacuum. Because what's going to happen is the Article 4 directions that are currently in place. Now, they only refer to office conversions and they're under Class O. So they don't refer to all of the other stuff, but they prevent development. So they end on the 31st of July. If these new Article 4 directions don't come in until much later, for argument's sake, Christmas, then there is nothing to prevent someone from going in under class, submitting a prior approval application under Class MA to convert Class E use Class E buildings, business, commercial and service, to residential. So that might present a window of opportunity. Now, the council could refuse it. There'd have to be significant and robust reasons for refusal, because obviously, if you have a refusal of prior approval, you can go to appeal. So it might be an interesting rest of the year, and it might also be an interesting appeal scenario, because these councils may choose to refuse prior approval applications. There, you may then end up in a whole award of costs on an appeal scenario. So it's a very twitchy sort of time at the moment for the London boroughs. If they wanted to reduce the length of time for Article 4 directions, what they're probably going to have to do is bring in an immediate Article 4 direction. As far as I can see, that's the only way that they can get over this without the legislation being changed.
Well, for our viewers, I think that is a brilliant update in terms of the Article 4s, particularly if you are investing in the London boroughs. Furthermore, it's a great opportunity potentially within which to pass the camel through the eye of that needle between the 31st of July and when your council might introduce a new Article 4. But I think the bigger picture here is the Article 4s, as and when they do get introduced, will revert to what we interpreted from the legislation, which is down to a street or a building level opposed to borough-wide or area-wide. So I think there's a great opportunity there for our viewers to capitalise on. Linda, it's been a fantastic update again, as usual. And anything that you feel we might have missed out of today's update?
I can't think of anything at the moment. I think we've gone through that as thoroughly as we possibly can. And you know, the final piece is this impact, the possible policy vacuum. But I would imagine Whitehall are fully aware of that, and I would imagine local planning authorities are already lobbying levelling up communities housing. I don't know which order round to get those, but that department, they will be already lobbying them and saying, look, you can't, if you do this, this is going to be the knock-on effect. So we'll see.
Well, Linda, it's brilliant once again to have you sharing your intimate knowledge on the planning system. And if you want to reach out to Linda, she is brilliant at what she does. Details you'll find below on how to reach out to Linda on LinkedIn. And if you're struggling with a planning issue, drop your question below. We might record an answer if it's a popular question. All that remains for me to say is it's goodbye from me. I'm Andrew Roberts.
And it's goodbye from me. Thank you for watching. I'm Linda Wright from Planet Right. Thank you.